The latest in drone idiocy is that this guy took a GoPro Karma and crashed it into the stands at a major baseball game, a Padres game. Let's take a look at exactly what he did and what went wrong and how it all ended up. Here's the video from Fox Sports. The camera crew saw this drone just flying around this major baseball game, and they just started filming it. So, of course, at this point, the cops are like, we need to go track this guy down, and they go out into the parking lot to find him. And I pulled up a Google map here. So over here you see Petco Park. I want to show you, this is San Diego Airport, and it's about like a mile away from San Diego Airport. So it's very close, but let's zoom in on Petco Park here, and you can kind of get a sense for the shape of it. Now, where the cops tracked the guy down was, they said, in the airport or the parking lot. And I don't know which parking lot, but either he was over here or he was over here. And what that means is that he obviously wouldn't have been able to really see the drone, so he didn't really have line of sight when it was down lower. But also his transmitter, his receiver is communicating with the drone through all these stands, which are probably made of metal and concrete and other stuff that would interfere with the Karma's already kind of weak Wi-Fi signal. So the signal would have to pass through all of this. Now, when they caught up with the guy in the parking lot, one of these parking lots probably, they said, hey, bring that drone back. You can't be doing this. And the guy said, I would, but I no longer have control of it. The drone is flying itself. So let's go back to the video here. And so here you can see it's crashed, and this lady with a hat picks it up and is baffled by the whole thing. Here it's coming in fast. You can see it's heading forward. These people, even though it's loud and buzzing, they don't even notice it before it crashes. So it's so lucky that it happened to land in an empty seat. And then that guy takes it from the lady with the hat and dances around with it. Because this is America, right? That's how things work. It was so lucky that it didn't hit somebody. And I can't believe the people there didn't notice it. But the fact is, while drones are loud and buzzy, when you're in a place that has any amount of noise, it's kind of easy to not notice them. And stadiums like that are loud, beaches are loud. You can just not hear drones in places like that. So before the guy had to launch his drone, he definitely had to bypass this warning from the DJI app that he was flying in a restricted flight zone. Because as I showed you, he was very close to the airport. So he already had to specifically acknowledge that there was a pretty big danger. The FAA has guidelines saying you are not allowed to fly anywhere near an airport. So that was already super illegal. So for all the people saying we need more drone laws, no, there are plenty of drone laws that told this guy he couldn't do this. The FAA also has safety guidelines that say never fly over groups of people and never fly over stadiums or sports events. He violated both of those. And they also have specific restrictions around flying over Major League Baseball games. They get very specific here. These are temporary flight restrictions, TFRs. So he was violating that too. Ultimately, what happened when he lost control of it, I believe, is that the Karma had a weak signal. And at that point, it starts to return to home, which it does automatically. Now, by default, the return to home algorithm flies to a specified height and then goes straight to wherever it took off from. The default height is 100 feet. And if you look at that map, you can see here, I don't know the exact height of the cheap seats up here, but these towers are about 200 feet. So you can see these are probably, well, where it hit is probably about 100 feet. So my guess is that he had the default setting set for the return to home altitude. He should have set it to something higher if he was going to do something stupid like this. Obviously, it didn't fly up high enough. Another possibility is that it didn't activate the return to home at all, because when I looked in support forums, the Karmas tend to just go rogue. So many people, there aren't that many people who are flying Karmas. They're not a popular drone, but so many of them were complaining that it will just take off on them. Even when it has a good signal, it will just head off in a random direction, some tangent at full speed. And quite a few of them simply disappear and people lose their drone. And that's when they really get upset. So it might have had this particular, what seems to be a common flake where it just takes off. That's dangerous. Now, DJI drones, the early Phantom models would do some of this too. And that was dangerous. But for like the last year or so, all the major models have had more sophisticated algorithms, and most importantly, they have obstacle avoidance. The Karma lacks obstacle avoidance. So even if it had been programmed for the wrong altitude to return to home, if it had had obstacle avoidance, it would have stopped and just hovered before it potentially crashed into somebody. So the Karma here is deficient in some key ways. Now, clearly the operator is at fault for being totally irresponsible, reckless, and negligent. But at the same time, just like cars will tend to have seatbelts and stability control systems, I do think the manufacturer has some responsibility to build in basic safety systems. And one of those systems would have been, well, perhaps something that would detect that it's near a major stadium and it shouldn't fly over that, but also a system that would stop before it just crashed at full speed into a human being. Really pretty irresponsible. He has the potential to be fined by the FAA. It could also be that the San Francisco or San Diego PD will file a case against him. They didn't at the time. They did not arrest him. They simply let him go, but it's not too late for them to press charges. And I do think they should, because while I think a lot of drone laws are stupid, I think these drone laws are totally valid and that people like this need to be publicly punished, especially because this particular case has seen so much publicity. The video is everywhere. In the past, in 2014, we saw a series of fines from the FAA for people flying in and around stadiums. But these fines are all really small. The Cowboys game, he landed his first drone on top of the stadium and then lost signal. So then he got a second drone and flew it up there with a hook or something to try to rescue his first drone. All of that is egregious, and they only fined him $1,000, which is probably less than the cost of a single one of his drones. Like these numbers aren't going to really put a dent in the pockets of people who can afford to buy drones, right? Like these fines should be bigger numbers if they actually want to deter this type of behavior. And of course, you only find the people who get caught. A guy at the University of Alabama only got fined $900 for flying near a stadium, and his drone lost power and crashed into somebody's head. Only $900. I actually feel like these fines need to be way, way higher because people are being reckless and we need to make examples out of them. I need to actually put some deterrence in there. And again, we also need to rely on responsible operators and drone manufacturers to implement some additional safety procedures. Go to stp.io/drones to see all of our drones videos. Add your own comments down below. Your thoughts, was the guy okay? How do you think he should be punished? What's appropriate for that? And subscribe to see more videos. Bye.